So let me say this. As I look around the room, I see lots of new faces. Test. And I hear lots of loud noises. And let me just say this. If you're new to Waypoint, this is a good time to be here because you're not alone. We got a lot of new people in this community, and we've honestly done a terrible job of publicizing ourselves. I don't think we've spent any money on it. Maybe a little bit of social media stuff, but whenever I talk to a new person, it's like, I just saw you on Google, you're at the top of the list. So thank you, Google, for putting us on the top of the list. But so anyhow, it's a good time to be here, and today is especially a good day for you because today is going to be all about how to get connected into the community. And so very good. Another thing to mention, Kickoff Sunday, this is, just to give you an idea of the rhythms here at Waypoint, this is the beginning of our year in many ways. This is when a lot of the ministries kind of start up again for the year. We kind of follow the school year calendar. And then so we'll go a couple of semesters of different classes, different opportunities throughout the year, life groups, that kind of stuff. And then typically in the summers, we kind of wind down some things, and that's when we do like missions trips and stuff like that at Waypoint. So this, just so you guys know, this is kind of the beginning of the year for us here at Waypoint. So today I want to share just briefly on vision. I want to share a little bit about some opportunities related to spiritual development, just briefly, just to touch on those because they're coming up here real quickly. And then we're going to spend some time talking about life groups and volunteerism and volunteer teams for the remainder of the time. So I'm going to be done in 21 minutes, hopefully. And we're going to have time for the rest of the day to be able to go to the tables, interact with the leaders that are there, and we've got food. The youth are barbecuing outside, and so we'll have food as well for you. They're doing a fundraiser for that for their youth camp. So our desire is that you guys would stick around and be a part of that time today. So, okay, just real briefly, because I don't have a lot of time. I'm glad, Tom, you talked about we're going somewhere because God has given us a vision. He gave us a vision, I think it's been 17 years ago now. And I remember over a lunch with Dan Grieve, when we had decided with the Andersons we're going to plant this church, and we didn't even know the name of the church yet. And over at a lunch with Dan Grieve, I was kind of getting his creative gears spinning, and we were talking about what are we going to name this thing? And through the conversation, this name, Waypoint Church, came out. And I think it kind of surprised us both, and we thought, that sounds pretty good. That, there's some cool imagery with that. But, we didn't realize at the time that was actually God's prophetic vision for us, for this community. And now, 17 years later, we've seen how God has sent out people, not just church planters, but people who have come here for restoration, come here for equipping, coming here for healing and all that kind of stuff over the years, and then have been sent out to different careers, different parts of the world and whatnot. And so we have a unique calling here at Waypoint, and that is part of that unique calling, that we would be a place on the journey, a waypoint on the journey where people would be healed, re-equipped, provided for, get their bearings straight, and heading out for the rest of their journey. So that's really the vision of Waypoint. And Matthew and Amanda started us off in that, of course, and have laid a great foundation. And we're just continuing with that foundation here into this next season. I also believe we're getting ready for a new season of movement here at Waypoint. So I'm excited about it, and I believe that God's speaking to us about the plans for that. Okay. We've talked about the transition. Let me just talk a little bit about, when I was hired here 2 years ago, I didn't realize Matthew and Amanda were leaving when they hired me. If they would have told me that, maybe I would have looked at other potential jobs. But shortly after being hired, we started really a transition process in Matthew and Amanda's heart, and there was lots going on with transitions of staff and all sorts of stuff. But what I was hired to, one of the main things that I was hired here as the director of ministries at Waypoint, is to set up a track for us, for you guys, a spiritual development track, so that when you're here, what is the next step, what is the next place of equipping, how can I get involved, how can I grow in the Lord? And so I was hired to do that, and I began to do that, and then all these things happened, and now that was kind of on the back burner. But we've developed a track now, and we're kind of fine-tuning it, and we'll be talking in depth about it in January. But I wanted to tell you guys about part of the foundations of that track. And we're going to be offering 3 classes this year. EHS, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Raise your hand if you've taken that already here at Waypoint. So yeah, maybe half of you guys have taken that. The second part of that is Emotionally Healthy Relationships. That's EHR. Raise your hand if you've taken that. Only a couple in the room. So that's the second part of laying the foundation. And then a new class that we're developing now, that Rob and Janine Wegner are developing for us, is something called Restoration. I don't even know the name. It's that hot off the presses. Restoration Encounter. And that is another class that we'll be offering this year as well. And those three really represent the laying of the foundation, the spiritual foundation for you guys in the track process of development here at Waypoint. I won't say anything more about it other than we have an EHS and an EHR class starting at the end of the month. Actually, we'll be starting that on the 25th of September, Wednesday night. And so if you're interested in getting involved in part of that, maybe you've taken EHS, then it's time to take EHR. Maybe you've never taken EHS, you can sign up for that. They'll be on Wednesday nights this fall, going through up to Thanksgiving, and then we'll launch some other classes the new year. Restoration Encounter will be a part of that. So we'll be doing rhythms of 2 classes at any given time here at Waypoint. So I just want to say, I'll talk more about that in some announcements coming up, but you can, if you get in the email that Anna's preparing, there'll be information there. The registration is open for those classes. It's going to be Wednesday nights from 7 to 9. Childcare will be provided for certain ages, and more information in there as well. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So that's part of laying this spiritual foundation in our lives, and part of the movement forward here at Waypoint in this new season of ministry. All right, I want to talk about life groups now. Now, life groups here at Waypoint are really the main thing. If you've been here for any amount of time, you probably have heard a lot about life groups. If you're newer to Waypoint, maybe newer to Christianity, then we believe in life groups. And what life groups is, it's a smaller group of people that meets on a regular basis, and really with three main functions for the groups. One is to build community, 2 is to serve one another, and 3 is to live on mission together. So that's really the heart of these life groups that we do here at Waypoint Church. For me, my journey started 25 years ago. One of my first things I did when I became a Christian is I joined a group. They weren't called life groups back then. It was a part of a different church, but I joined a small group. And I remember how crucial that was for me in my early days, like Tom said, to kind of work out the stuff, to have a community to do this together with. And it was really just, I came out of kind of a partying culture, and I had a lot of friends in that world. And I stepped out of that world, and I needed a community around me in order to be successful in my Christian walk. And that small group at the time really became that. And I remember my buddy Joseph and I, we would serve water in the group. That was like our main thing. We would fill people's glasses with water, greet people. We just loved nobody had asked us to do that, but that was just kind of our role in the group. We were meeting at this apartment, some guy that opened up his apartment. He actually left the apartment, moved out. His roommate was still there, but he was never a part of our group. But we just kept showing up. The poor guy was, I don't even know if he was a Christian. He kept cleaning his apartment and unlocking the door. We came for a while until eventually, it's like you're at the door and nobody's answering. We're like, all right, it's probably time to move on to a new location here. But, so that was my early days. I was a part of that. Then I was a part of college groups. I was a part of leading youth small groups. And then eventually when we moved overseas, then we started having kids, and then we had a group. Talk about chaos. Small groups with babies is crazy. Yeah, don't give up, do it. But I remember I was the leader, and it's like, we're going to get something spiritually done tonight. We're going to talk about Jesus. We're going to read together. We're going to pray. And it'd be halfway through the meeting, and I'd have a crying child on my lap. And all we did those days was just care for each other, just be together, support each other, encourage each other, pray for each other. And I don't even know if we opened the Bible in those days. So I've been in those groups as well. And then eventually we moved to Italy, and we did groups with refugees and groups with Italians. And now we're back here doing groups with all ages. And so life groups have just been such a crucial part of my formation as a believer. And if you've not had the opportunity or not been in that world, I just really want to encourage you. Groups and life groups here at Waypoint are crucial for this. I want to read Acts 2:42 through 47. And this is what I would say is the epitome of church. This is the early church. This is when the apostles were just getting started Jesus had given them their assignment. He had gone on to heaven, and they had been doing church. And this is what it looked like in those early days. Acts 2:42 says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. Praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people, the Lord added to their numbers daily those who were being saved. This is church, you guys. This is church. And what I love about this is, the apostles, they were meeting in meetings like this, right? In the synagogues or in the public squares, they were having these kinds of meetings. But it wasn't just limited to this, because they recognized that, in a group like this, we can't actually get to know each other and go deep. We can't actually serve one another and help one another. And I think they even realized that the group of people that needed to be developed and have opportunities to serve and to become ministers of the gospel wasn't going to happen by just sitting in the crowd and listening, right? And so this is I think the best description of the church. And so if this is your experience of church, a room like this where you listen for, an hour or whatever, you're part of worship, and that's the end of it, I would say you've not really fully experienced church, okay? You have to find a small community in order to really be able to go deep with people and to be able to really experience those things that we see there in Acts. Now, nobody in my group has ever sold a property and given me money. That day may come, but you know what obviously the point of that is. So community, that really is the beginning of, or really one of the main things, the first thing of the importance of life groups. The second thing is service. It's a place to discover and activate our callings. These small groups can be I believe, the best place to be able to discover how has God created me and how can I give and serve other people through the gifts that God has given me. For some people, that may be hosting or pouring water like we did and making people feel welcome. For other people, that may be listening to someone who's suffering and struggling and being, good listening ear and helping them and being with them. For others, that could be leading the meeting and helping people get engaged in mission. Maybe you're the leader of the group, or you have this gift on your life of leadership, and you can help motivate people to follow a vision together. Maybe you're an intercessor, and life groups is a place where you can pray and really carry each other's burdens through prayer. Whatever it is, every one of us has a gift, has a calling, has an assignment from God to serve each other here in this room and the people in our lives outside of this room. Let's read about this in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 through 27. You guys have heard this, but you've probably heard this if you're a believer, but this is just such an important illustration of how we're meant to work together and depend on one another. In verse 12, it says, just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jew or Gentile, slave or free, and we were all given one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but many. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not the hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not be for that reason stop being a part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat them with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable, we treat with special modesty. While our presentable parts need no special treatment, But God has put the body together, giving greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is part of it. You know, Paul does a great job of illustrating this necessity for one another that we have. God has created us to be dependent upon each other. You are incomplete. I am incomplete, okay? He's done this because he knows how important it is for us to have this healthy relational dependency on one another in order to become something much bigger, which is his body, and to represent him in the world. So part of the vision of life groups is serving one another, loving one another, helping one another, just like the body in all its different parts does that for one another. So that's really the second purpose of life groups. The third is mission. And honestly, this is one that I think we have a little bit harder time with. But as we look across the world and we see the growing church, and the church is growing all over the world, it is typically growing through small communities, like a life group. And these small communities continue to be the best way to win people to Jesus. Okay, it's not big mega churches around the world that are doing it. It's these small communities that meet in coffee shops and parks and homes, and sometimes in secret in different parts of the world. That is how the church grows. It's these smaller communities that love and serve one another, that look different than the world around people. Mission has to be a part of our life group model here at Waypoint. And, you know, one of the things, we just did a life group leader training a week ago, and one of the things I talked about in that group of leaders is, hey, we've got to figure out this mission thing. So I give you guys permission to get creative and to think outside of the box and do things differently. But really, life groups are meant to be a place where new people can come, feel welcome. Maybe they don't know the Lord. Maybe you're sitting here today and you don't know anything about Christianity. Life group is a great place to go. It's a safe place to go and ask the questions that you may be thinking. And a lot of our groups, what we will typically do is we'll have whatever the preaching is in the morning on Sundays. We'll have discussion questions in the group that week to talk more in depth about some of those things as well. So if you're a new believer, then life groups, you can hear about something here, or maybe be inspired, maybe be moved, and then a life group is a place where you really get to flesh out those things that you're learning here at Waypoint. Okay, so after service, we're going to have our life group set up, leaders set up on these tables over here. So this is a place where you can go. We're all over the city. We meet all different nights of the week, different times of the week. So you'll be able to have a chance to go and connect with leaders, ask questions, find out, about how to get involved, give them your email, your phone number, and so that's going to be this part over here. So that's life groups. We'll be talking about this more as we go on, of course, over the next few weeks, but that's life groups. So just want to really encourage you, if you're not a part of a small group, I'd encourage you to get connected to one here at Waypoint. The other thing I want to talk about is volunteerism. And that's going to be on this side of the room. So I believe a good and healthy church runs on volunteerism, not on a staff of professionals doing ministry. Tom's the professional one, by the way. The rest of us, maybe not. Our success as a church here at Waypoint is directly connected to our ability to build a community where everyone has a place to serve. Ephesians 4 talks about this idea that the apostles, the fivefold leaders in the church, their job was to equip the saints for works of ministry. So that's us, the saints, right? So that means that everybody has a work of ministry that God has given them. You've got a specific, we talked about it in the Corinthians passage. You have a specific thing that God has created you to be excellent at. And volunteerism is a way to discover that and be able to use that in a sincere way. I recognize that we are totally immersed in a consumer culture here in America that has colored the church as well. The model of the American church staff hosting people each week, providing a good service and programming for those attending, and not providing meaningful opportunities to serve each other within the community, it's actually robbing the body of a meaningful spiritual life. When I became a Christian, I came out of not a good past. I had lots of issues, tons of issues. And I remember early on spending time with God, and he was dealing with some of those issues. But I remember he said something to me. It's interesting. I think some of the most clear things I've heard from God were in the very beginning of my walk with him, 25 years ago. So if you're a new Christian and you think you need help learning how to hear God, I think you probably are hearing him already. That's been my experience. The important things he says very clearly to us. And I remember him saying to me, Josh, if you give your life away, I'll give my life to you. I remember thinking, how can I can't help. I can't be of any help to anyone. I've got all these issues. I mean, I had shame, I had guilt, I had all this stuff that, habits, all that kind of stuff that I had from my old life, that I was fighting against. But he said to me, I'll focus on those things and help you. You focus on others. And I think there's this thing in the American culture where it's like this inward, I need to fix myself. I need to, this whole self-help stuff. I need to get everything sorted out before I can be of any value to anyone or any help to anyone. I don't think that's a kingdom concept. Now, I'm not saying ignore your issues and go give your life away and it's all going to be fine. God didn't let me ignore my issues. He actually brought them to me and dealt with them in the way he wanted to deal with them. Not me trying to figure it out myself and fix myself. And honestly, and this isn't me saying like I'm some perfect person or perfect Christian. I just made it my goal to focus on serving other people and giving my life away. And I've always been in over my head. I've always felt inadequate and really unable to do a good job at things. like I've never taken on something that's like, oh, I'm going to be excellent at that. I'm going to do it. I've just said I'm available, and God's used me, and He has focused on me and helped me get freedom in my life and get my identity and everything sorted out. So this is the beauty of serving. This is the beauty of volunteerism, is when we give our lives away in support of others that don't have what we have, then God builds his kingdom. He builds his body. And so today, in a very practical way, we've got probably 50 different opportunities over here of how you can get involved in and outside of the church in ministry and giving your life away and serving. And so we want to, we need you, but you need us more than we need you, if that makes sense. As a staff, we don't want to try to do all this stuff. We will actually will fail. If we try to do everything, we'll burn out. But you need these opportunities more than we need you to fill them. Does that make sense? So this isn't just to talk about, we got to find people to do all these things to make the church go so we can sit back and enjoy ourselves. This is your development here in many ways. So don't miss the opportunity to do that. Let me just, I'm out of time. Let me just read. I'm on my last page, so that's good. So let me just read Matthew 20, verses 25 through 28. Jesus speaking, he said, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over you, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. This is a kingdom secret. This is a kingdom principle here. That if we give our lives away, and it's not about, I would imagine most of you in this room aren't trying to become great, right? Like some of the apostles were trying to fight for leadership and all that. But the point remains, and that is, if we give our lives away, then God raises us up. He develops us. He gives us. He builds us into the person He's created us to be. So that's volunteerism. I'll end with one little story, and then we'll break and we can go to the tables. And I think, are you giving instructions? Okay, Anna's going to come back up. There was a couple that have been a part of this community over the years, and they're no longer here. And we had a meeting with them. This is probably a year ago, where they had told us they were going to move on to another community, and but we wanted to connect with them before they left, and make sure that they were in a good place, and we were in a good place relationally and all that. So Rachel and I went and sat with them and had coffee together, and we just it was a good conversation. They felt like they were ready to move on, which that's totally fine. But the wife said to me, she had a question. She said, We've tried to connect here in this community, and we see that you guys, have these deep relationships. And we felt like we've never really been able to develop a deep relationship in this community. We have friends and stuff, but she said, what's the secret? How do you develop these deep relationships? And I didn't have to think long before I realized, the way that we've developed deep relationships with other believers is by serving side by side with them. Serving in a team of people in a community, whether it's a life group or in any other kind of setting, that situation allows us to really make connections where nothing else can do the same, have the same impact. Does that make sense? I think we see this in the military, these guys and gals that really fight together and stand with each other. The relationships last as a result of that. And I thought, that's it. That's how, when I think of the people that I've gone deep with over the years, it's because we've served together. And so in closing, an encouragement for you guys. Again, you may feel like, I don't know if I'm newer to Waypoint, or I'm not really connected very well with people. I think serving could be a secret to finding those deeper connections. Now, it will cost you something, but everything that's good costs us something. Don't believe the American lie, this mindset of, I just need to try to take as much as I can in this life and have this amazing experience. Because I don't think that fast road is not going to lead to anything worthwhile. Does that make sense? Okay, very good. Anna, come up here. Give us some instructions about where we go from here.